So let's we join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Rebecca, can we have the roll call?
Director Underhill.
Here.
Director Ratterman.
Here.
Director Thomas.
I'm here.
President Cicada.
Here.
And Director Davidson is absent today.
Right. All right, public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. And we have Carl coming forward. Is that what I see? Welcome, Carl and Puppy.
Birthday called me Carlos, and my name is legally Carlos, but,
Do you want to be called Carlos or Carl?
no, you know.
As long as it's not something else.
This is very, we have here those official meetings.
Very good.
And Mr. I met him via email, very nice man. And this is Chewy.
Hi, Chewy.
For the camera. This is
Hello.
Rebecca, Bertha, Scott Ryder, Ralph Thomas, Debbie Cicada, and Michael Mingle.
Welcome.
How can we help you today? Or what can we hear from you today?
It's very good to see you folks again. It's been
You too.
Quite a while since I've been in this forum, and I do like seeing all of you. I've known many of you for many years, and I've known this for many years, and some of them.
Not long at all.
Long, a while, and you've all been very nice, very kind, and I find you all quite competent. Well, I better say that part again, and I find you all quite competent. As you know, I'm a ratepayer in West Point, and I've been a ratepayer for a long time. I think it was 1986 that they brought the water through our property. And I can remember I was a very young man, I think I was still in high school at the time. And my father wanted my advice, you know, as a young man. And I said, well, you know, you always taught me that community comes first and that people come first. And if you can give them that easement through the property, because it was going to be a very big easement to go diagonally through 47 acres, I said, can we just give it to them? And the attorney said, well, you know, there has to be some compensation involved. So they gave us some hookups, and we didn't charge you a dime for that. We do like CCWD. You know, it's always been about the community for me. So recently, when in the hardware store, when I heard a complaint about a water bill, and I realized that my water bill, you know, was quite high too. And I did some investigation and found out that there have been some meters that have been changed over, and also that there have been, during that period, there have been some combined billing because you failed to bill for one cycle in order to try to even things up because it was going through that process. Well, my bill was a lot more than was expected, and I'm getting, you know, the usual runaround. I feel like I'm working with a third-rate insurance company from Florida. You know, always deny first, always deny the claim first, and I feel that that's happening here too. That customer service has been lacking, and as you know, I'm very much about the whole of Calaveras County. To my detriment at times. I've stood up for them. I stood up for them at the county level, at the state level. I've driven people off. Sorry, I've driven people off and tried to keep the residents of Calaveras County safe for all these years. My property's up for sale. Friday, PG&E came through for me, and I'm a very wealthy man.
Very good. I think we have a 3-minute limit because we hit that about. So Carl, I think we hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I'll see if we can't get something on the agenda to help us
Thank you
figure out
very much.
some options. Thanks, Carl.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. The following items are what? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any other public comment online? And anybody else in the audience?
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I guess I don't know. I gotta speak up on the bringing dogs here. People in the office bringing dogs, and now we have members of the public bringing dogs.
It's okay.
It's weird.
Michael, perhaps you can handle that.
Jesse, just for the record, he did ask if it was okay. And I told him
Okay.
that this is a dog-friendly area, and one of our employees went out with a dog simultaneously, but that's kind of hard to say. Leave your
No.
dog outside, so.
Well, it sounds like something our general manager should take care
Excuse me, did you ask for items to be pulled?
Not yet.
of. Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I got reprimanded about not finishing.
And rightly so.
I think you were. Thank you, Jesse. And, Michael will work with you on that. And anybody online with public comment? All right, seeing no more public comment, we're going to move on to item number 3, the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed for later discussion.
And I want to pull 3C,
Okay?
and we don't have to discuss it right now because I think what you wanted to do, Cindy, was
Right, move on to the new business.
I'm going
So-
to ask for approval of, on the consent agenda, 3A, 3B.
Second,
Sorry, so what are we doing?
We're approving the consent items 3A and 3B. And then we're going to move on to new business, and then we'll come back to item 3C for discussion.
Sounds good.
Right? All right, so all's in favor for approving the consent agenda items 3A and 3B?
I.
Seeing-
aye.
All right, seeing approved, passed. All right, so we are going to move on to new business. Item number 4, presentation of the Aqua JPIA refund check by Patricia Slavin, JPIA Director of HR and Administration. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. And recently I had risk management added to me, so now I'm going to have a really long time. So it's a pleasure to be with you today to kind of celebrate the success that you've had. I'm here with a check for you. And what happens is we go back 4 years. We keep funds in-house for those 3 years in case there's claims that sometimes have a long tail and we have to pay out on. So we're looking at 4 years ago where you stood. You performed very well. Your staff performed very well. You would have had a little bit of a refund coming from our property and liability program, but the decision was made by our board to keep those funds in-house because, as you've probably heard, the property market is very, very hard right now. In fact, we're struggling to get coverage for our members, and we anticipate rates will go up. We do have some reserves that will be able to absorb some of that, so it won't be too bad of a hit. But we felt it was more prudent then to hold those funds to help offset some of the increases that we're seeing. You've probably seen it in your own homes here in rural, trying to get, your fire insurance, your house insurance, and this is just multiplied by, right, hundreds of millions of dollars as to the impact that the fires have had. But also it's nationwide, from hurricanes to severe hailstorms in the last couple of years. And so the insurers are just really gun shy about insuring us. So that will be a road that we're going to walk in the next year or two, and we'll see what happens. But for today, we want to celebrate. This is really a refund for you for your workers' compensation. So you have had a very good record with that. Your staff is following the recommendations of our risk advisors and doing the right thing and responding when something does happen. So good news for that. And I wanted to thank you, Scott, for being a part of our property, right? You're on our property committee.
Yes.
We appreciate that involvement. And as you have heard, and you're going to hear through that committee, all the challenges we're having with the property insurance. But just wanted to remind you, we track how involved you are with the services we offer. We want you to take advantage of the many services we have. 99% of them are no additional cost to you, to your employees. So they do take advantage of our training. And we're looking at the last 2 years. Of course, well, 2020 and 2021 are the 2 years that I'm speaking to. Of course, in March, everybody went home. Maybe not your field staff, but a lot of people went home, and everybody, our usage of our online training just, right, it just spiked, and our in-person training went to nothing. So it's slowly coming back, although the online is still very popular. And as we all know, we've all adjusted to folks working at home, so they're used to doing those. But the good news is we're getting back in person. And in fact, the end of May, we're going to have an event at our office in Roseville. There'll be some operations classes and some supervisor classes that folks can attend. You can take a look at that yourselves. So we're trying to move back to what I call is the next normal, because 6 months from now, it will be the next normal. So it's always changing. I would also encourage Michael and your team to look at our leadership program. Several of your neighboring agencies have put folks through, and it's for yourself, of course, but also any up and coming manager or future leader that you see. This is our year-long program, highly immersed, and you are in a cohort with 16 other water industry executives from around the state. And so that starts up in the fall. So you might want to take advantage of that. But I know you're all waiting for the big news. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know, is there a camera somewhere?
Yeah.
So we have a almost $37,000 refund
Wow.
for you. Wow. The good work of your staff.
Yeah, we came down there before.
We'll join you down there.
I really think we need to have a big staff picture with that. Because of that, right?
We actually don't want them to know about it because they'll try to spend it, so. It's secret.
Do something to manage that. I agree. I think I did. Right?
I think that we should do a board picture, yeah.
All right. What's the plan one for staff? Who can keep this real time? Yes.
We didn't take it to the bank.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I should make a mobile deposit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And share with your staff.
Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's okay. It was a beautiful drive this time of year. Wow. The poppies and the wildflowers and everything is so great. I know. Too soon to be brown. But I see you.
Okay, here we go.
We're counting on a refund next year too.
Cindy, I got something to say.
Okay. Scott has something to
Well,
say.
before we leave this topic, this is workers' compensation. This is our staff. This is everybody doing the right thing in the field and in the office and I don't know where Jesse went and Damon and you guys leading that crew to that. I know we used to have claims, we used to have injuries. We haven't had any in a long time, and that is so good to see. And I think it has a lot to do with our management staff and training and talking about it, preparing ahead of time. Good on the, I mean, this is a kudos for our staff. And thank you, Patricia, for coming all the way up here, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a testament to the operations staff. I mean, I have reduced the number of paper cuts in the office over my period of time here, but yeah, it's a huge, huge credit goes to the operations staff. And yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Patricia. We'll see you next week.
Go ahead. All right.
Bertha, go ahead.
Yeah, What this does for me is to show me that our staff really believes in safety. You know, they know it, they feel it, and it's just part of their DNA these days. And so that's what we're seeing as a tribute to that. And I'm very, very pleased, and I'm sure we can find something to do with that nice little.
You know what? I'd like to make sure we show the staff, everybody involved, our appreciation for doing that. And if Michael could present to us, they'd like to use so much. I would like to see some type of a lunch or some kind of function where we're all there, just because I don't get to see staff. And if we could do something like that, and I don't know if we have to approve a certain amount or whatever, but we definitely should. I would like to see something along those lines if we can.
Mhm.
We will work on that and bring it back. Absolutely.
Patricia, thank you. Staff, thank you.
I spent 2 hours enthusiastic about this, it's complimentary, so thank you.
Oh, you know what? It takes management and staff to make this work. It saves us a lot of money if we can keep that cost rate down, that experience modification rate, all that stuff. Those are
Well, it has
all
lots to do with the JPIA training as well, and what they offer and present to us. I bring back ideas every single year from our Monday meeting at the conference.
Well, thank you again. I'll set it for you.
It's all been very well said.
All right, Patricia, thank you again. And yeah, we look forward to working with you a long time. All right, so now we're going to go back to the consent agenda, item 3C. And Bertha, that's something you pulled, so
Yes,
take
yes,
it away.
because what I specifically wanted to talk about was AB 2421. And this was for the unpermitted cannabis cultivation. This bill will enhance the authority of county council and city attorneys to civilly prosecute and enjoin. And I don't understand what enjoin water theft means.
Enjoin means to make them stop doing it.
Enjoin.
Oh, they just can't write that.
Okay. Water.
To seek an injunction would be to a court order that they can no longer do that activity.
You know, and I'm reading this and it tells me specifically they'll extend the prohibition, expand the ability of the county council to pursue civil actions, and it says authorize a county council or city attorney to bring an action for violation of the diversion or use of water for unpermitted cannabis cultivation. And I believe that we had some discussions before about potential CCWD water usage. I don't know. I mean, they can tap into the river and
I think we
Yeah.
talked about if they actually got into our treated water system.
Right. So there's the couple of bills here that address illegal cannabis cultivation. They're still working their way through the legislature, and so there may be some consolidation as it moves forward. Generally, we're supportive. I think that the direction we're taking here is we're supportive of efforts, giving law enforcement greater flexibility and more tools to address illegal cannabis cultivation. And that's really what these three bills are geared towards, including making it a felony.
okay. So specifically, we as a water agency, we're not there yet, right?
Well, so we have, it's something we have looked at in the past. We already have mechanisms in place. If there was water theft or illegal use of CCWD water, we could take certain steps, but this gives law enforcement greater tools to help us in that effort, basically. But it hasn't been a huge issue for CCWD yet, on wood. Our supplies are pretty secure. And to our knowledge, it hasn't been a huge issue for us yet. I know
It was before the board changed it so that you couldn't cultivate on anything less than 20 acre or more than a 20 acre parcel, an ag parcel, a poo parcel.
Mhm.
There were thousands of trips to our water treatment facility in Copperopolis. I mean, it was a steady.
Filling up trucks.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
he's talking about during the emergency ordinance before during the emergency ordinance, and then it was shut off for a couple of years in Calaveras, and then a new board of supervisors came in and authorized. it.
Although, to be clear though, those were permitted
Yeah.
grows. So this is what we're addressing here, are unpermitted, illegal cultivation.
Yeah.
And so that, some of that might still happen for these, for these grows, and we would try to, it's hard for us, we don't really have a lot of enforcement capability when it comes to that, so it's hard for us to really know. But if, we haven't seen, illegal connections to the main, for example, where they're tapping CCWD infrastructure to, just outright steal water. We just saw that Utica has dealt with that over time, where people, throw a pump in the ditch or something along those lines. But our supplies tend to be a little bit more, a little harder to
Restricted,
access.
yeah, we're a little more restricted.
So it hasn't, water theft hasn't been a huge problem, but I think in general, those are, making it harder for illegal grows to be successful is something that we want to support, especially on that water theft issue. And, hopefully it doesn't become a big issue for us.
Okay, well, that's what I just wanted to hear.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask to have this item pulled for a different reason. I'd like to see a policy, staff create a policy on how we support, oppose, wish to change bills, both federally and state. It allows, we're doing it here today. We don't have a policy against it. I want to create a policy, so there's some continuity in how we move forward with it. And so we could, and I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
Legal affairs. So I just want to bring it up here because it's on the agenda as opposed to future agenda items later on in our agenda. But that's just my request, and I think it'd be good for all of us.
Absolutely. I'm sorry about the feedback. I don't know where that's coming from, but yeah, that's something we talked about in legal affairs committee. We're going to work on a policy because CCWD periodically takes positions on bills kind of informally the way we are right now, and then staff will send some letters or register a position on these bills from here. But we've never really had a policy laid out for how we take positions and then what the follow-up for advocacy is after that. So that's kind of, we talked about legal affairs, a lot of agencies have those policies, so I don't think it's hard for us. We're not going to start from scratch here. We're going to borrow liberally from others and we'll bring a policy.
Or conservatively.
Or, I didn't mean that in the political sense.
All right, good idea.
Okay, so how's that gonna happen?
We'll probably bring it back to legal affairs committee
Oh,
first
okay.
and then bring it to the full board.
Okay,
Are you ready to approve your 3C?
yes, I approve 3C.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve 3C.
Okay, second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think you might need public comment on that
On, because we.
because it was pulled in.
Any public comment? Item 3C. Any online, seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? By the time I learn all this, I'll be done. You should maybe make me president again another year.
You just
See what
might.
you created. All right, moving on. We're going to item number 5, old business. Discussion action regarding the slurry line water services agreement with Utica Water and Power Authority. And if Brad here, that's the.
Brad is not here, so this one is all on me, and I'll try not to screw it up for Brad. Actually, this one hopefully will be pretty straightforward. It's something obviously we've talked about quite a bit over the years. It's pretty exciting. I think we're finally at a point where we're asking the board to take some action. We have, over the last several months, we've worked with Utica staff on a wheeling agreement that will allow us to move CCWD water through the Utica system. And their board, the latest update is the Utica board approved this agreement last night at their board meeting. And so it's now on for our board to consider for approval. And then the other, obviously the other big component of this is NCPA approval prior to CCWD water being conveyed through the Utica system. And those discussions are far along and moving in a very good direction. So we don't have, I think where we will end up is probably a letter agreement from NCPA acknowledging the wheeling agreement and acknowledging the terms under which we can move CCWD water through the Utica system. We've had some really productive discussions with NCPA on that in the past. That's really kind of where these efforts have failed is, demands from NCPA for additional information or explanation, and a lack of ability to, for whatever reason, to respond to those requests. And I think this time around, we've had some very detailed discussions with NCPA on what we're doing here, how we're planning to do it, how we're going to account for the water. So they don't, we're trying to address all those questions that we know, they're going to raise as we go through the process. And the additional information that they're seeking so far is pretty minimal and we'll be able to address, I think, in short order. So we don't have approval from NCPA yet, but they know the Utica board and our board are considering the wheeling agreement for approval. They're not a party to that agreement. That's an agreement between CCWD and Utica. But both Utica and we understand the contract requirement for approval. And I think, like I said, I think that's forthcoming. So
I have a question on, since Randy left, who are we dealing with? Who is representing NCPA?
So Jake Iman is the interim Randy for now.
Jake?
Yeah, and Jake is somebody we know well. He's been the dam safety engineer for NCPA on the North Fork project for probably the last 5 years. And is somebody we work very well with. And he, I believe, is in the running for the position full time, but currently he's taken on Randy's job on an interim basis, and he's still the dam safety engineer. And I think he might be doing another job as well. So Jake's a busy guy these days, but he's graciously made time for these discussions over the last couple of months and starting from scratch. The first conversation I had with him when we found out Randy left was, what's the slurry line, right? So with Randy, we were starting at a point of deep understanding of the issues already. And we could kind of just cut right to the bottom line. And
So we've lost some time then.
a little bit, though. To Jake's credit, he's a super sharp guy. He's very thoughtful. He's listened. He understands the issues already. So it hasn't been a huge setback for us at all. It's just been more of a learning curve. But we have a very, very good, productive working relationship with Jake.
Okay, the statement in here is that staff will update the board of directors as new information is received. Do we have any kind of a time frame? I mean, it's interesting for us to be waiting for information, but how long?
Good question. So where we're at, the next steps here are, really prioritizing that agreement from NCPA because we can't move water through the slurry line without it. But we also are ready to actually move forward with customer agreements. So hammering out agreements with individual customers and then installing the turnouts at those locations. I think initially we're probably just looking at 2 or 3 potentially. And so we have drafts of those documents already in the works. And we'll have those agreements in place. So my hope is that, we're ready to start selling water to irrigators. I mean, I hesitate to say, I hesitate to say by the end of May, but it's possible. But certainly, certainly, you know, this summer.
Sounds
I'm
aggressive.
gonna hold you. to
It is
a
aggressive.
commitment. You're gonna either have them done by May, or at least you'll come back to the board and give us an update, so we're not just waiting.
Will do. Absolutely. We'll agendize it for the second meeting in May, and it'll either be an update or hopefully some action. I don't know that we'll need
Yes.
further board action. I'll think that through.
But,
Um,
well, I'd like to see it before you take it. I think, well, with the NCPA, is there a potential for them to charge us fees? And if so, how will we make customer bill fees? Okay.
No, I don't anticipate fees from NCPA. I mean, it is a cost to them. That's why their approval is required. This is water that will no longer go through Collierville. So there is a cost to NCPA, and that's something that we, you know, CCWD needs to be aware of and mindful of, because we obviously have an interest in the financial success of Collierville.
But
If they're,
haven't they, by using our water to generate electricity, they've got compensated for us not taking the water. Now that we're taking it, they just have to make the adjustments on their side. They've been using.
Right.
Free
So
water.
right, there won't be a cost, there won't be a charge to CCWD for that. It's just a cost, you know, to the project essentially that we need to be aware of. Minimal. We're not talking about a lot of water in the scheme of the North Fork project, but it's an impact. And it's these facilities that CCWD owns. So we're not really, you know, we're not talking about if it wasn't for the fact that we own the Collierville Tunnel and McKay's Reservoir, we would be talking about a wheeling agreement with NCPA as well. But those are CCWD facilities. So I don't anticipate a charge from NCPA.
but if there is one, it's gonna be passed along to the potential customers
That was my
anyway.
question.
It will be
About
just as the wheeling
customer
agreement.
Right.
We will have all the charges in the customer agreements, and just like the wheeling charge for Utica, if there were a cost from NCPA, we pass that through the customer. We have to. It's not.
I'd like to know what the acre foot or charge that you're going to the customer.
So from the wheeling agreement or the total?
No, the wheeling agreement, those costs.
Oh, sure.
Forward, what we charge.
The combined total. Gotcha. Yeah,
I'd like to see that before.
we'll bring it back.
Russ, do you have anything to say?
Yeah. I'm assuming hearing you talk that NCPA might have an objection or two or questions, and one of the things that they would be concerned about is, oh my gosh, you're using some of the water that we could put through the generation facility. But knowing Brad the way I do, he's got that calculated, and it is 0.00000001
Right.
of the total percentage of water that goes through that facility. It's a silly thing for them to bring up if they bring it up.
It's a topic of discussion, but it's not they're not bringing it up in the context of charging us for it. But that's, you know, they're in the business of making money off of that power generation, and that's in our interest as well. So I'm glad that they're looking at every drop and trying to maximize the use of every drop. In this case, I think from our perspective, the most beneficial use of that water, you know, is local use for agricultural development. That's been very clear, the priority from our board. And so that is the best benefit we can put this water to use for, even if it's at the cost of a project. But I don't fault them necessarily for watching every penny. And I know I've dealt with NCPA long enough to know that they are going to track every drop of water that goes through the tunnel or doesn't go through the tunnel.
It's on you.
Okay, this is a good thing for a number of reasons, and not the least of which is kind of rekindling the positive relationship between CCWD and Utica. I think that you know, it hasn't been too long ago, before you were there, that there was a lot of animosity and grinding of teeth and stuff and
I was there for some of that too.
Huh?
I
You
was
were
there for some of that too.
Okay.
Well, you helped alleviate a lot of it.
Well, I think it's a great point though, and it shouldn't be lost on us that this represents a pretty monumental development. This is something that has been tried and failed many times over. So I'm really grateful to Joel and Utica and the Utica board for approving it last night it's been a very positive, productive negotiation throughout. And it's a milestone for us.
Well, it's time for a motion.
Wait a minute.
Well, we can have a motion, but I think that Joel was going to call in. Is he on? Okay. All right, you go ahead and make your motion.
Move for acceptance of executing the water wheeling agreement between CCWD and Utica.
I'll second that.
Oh,
Go ahead. Or you, Bertha seconded.
So we're gonna do some public comment
Yes.
at this time. All right, public comment online. Is that Joel?
Yes.
Hi, Joel.
Hi. Is it time for me to have a chance to just say a couple words?
Yep, we're
Jump.
giving you the floor.
Jump in there.
I just wanted to express my thanks to Michael and Brad and everyone who was involved in meeting and getting this agreement to a point where we all were comfortable with it, and also for the continued efforts to reach out to NCPA to kind of finalize their input on this agreement. And just to echo what I heard the board mention, we all feel like this is part of the foundation of a much stronger relationship between the two agencies that is mutually beneficial. And, we hope that this is the beginning of a lot more partnerships for the benefit of our community. So thanks to Michael, thanks to Brad, and if the board moves forward with this, we really appreciate your support of this great agreement that we've been able to develop.
and we can't think of a better person to represent UWPA. Thanks,
Thank
Joel.
you.
Bertha.
Thank you, Joel.
I
Any other?
I have a question for Joel.
All right.
Joel, if this can come to pass and we have a point in which we're going to turn the valve to turn some water into this pipe, I'm visualizing a photo op where your dad and you and you can hold up a sign that says thanks Grandpa for putting this pipe in the ground.
Yeah, I'm really proud that my grandfather Grant had something to do with this pipe and using it for slurry, and now we can, I can be part of repurposing it for another purpose. So yes, Russ, I would love to get my dad up there and kind of remember Grant, who passed away some years ago, and his contribution to the community. So yeah, that would be a welcome opportunity.
Take note of that.
Thank you. I have just a couple of questions.
Sure.
On the fees that were due for the wheeling agreement, is this contract for a year? Is it ongoing? How long is that contract going to be for? And then when do we start paying fees? When we finally start taking water?
Yeah, it's on a per acre foot basis, so we only pay
So I
for.
mean, the annual.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we would pay the annual fee this year for the irrigation season. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, but I think the annual meter fees that Utica charges is that a April through March calendar? Or is it a calendar year? Anyway, once a year, we'll pay the annual fees.
And this rate is contracted for how much?
So this rate is it's basically Utica's above Murphy's powerhouse rate that all of their irrigators pay, and the Utica board revisits that rate on an annual basis.
What is CCWD's current rate for ag water per cubic foot?
So
Acre foot.
the only ag rate that we have is for water out of the Calaveras River below New Hogan for a handful of ag customers we have down there. And I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's very
It's $18.
lower,
an acre
20,
foot.
it's in the $20 range. Yeah. might
Jeff,
not
do
have
you
to
know
look
that?
but
How much your acre foot is?
We did it on a decade scale. I'm not sure what it is this year, but I believe
It's around $20. Yeah. Yeah, and that's, water that those irrigators have to pump out of the river, essentially. So we don't really provide any distribution behind that water. So the slurry line water is much different. This is a higher value product. And there's more cost to the district in order to deliver it. So it'll be, as far as ag water in Calaveras County goes, it'll be the most expensive ag water in the county. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's also provides a lot of value.
All right.
So we'll be providing pressurized water.
Under the circumstances, yes, they would
So
be more than willing.
This will be, I'm all in favor.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around a couple of things. So the pressurized, in theory, costs more versus the Calaveras, they pull it out themselves. So
They
that's-
own the infrastructure to
They
convey
get
that
it to
water.
them themselves versus we would be doing the infrastructure. Okay. And we also, at some point along the line, of this whole journey, we talk about, doing a trial to see how it's gonna work and stuff like that. So are we still in a trial period per se? So when we do these customer agreements, you know how we have it said that once you connect, you can't disconnect. If this is a trial, are we gonna keep that in mind? So if because I think we're only gonna have a couple of customers.
What do you mean trial?
Well, so actually, we've kind of gone away from at first we were considering doing sort of a pilot project.
Pilot, that's.
To just to make sure that the mechanisms that we put in place are gonna work the way that we want it to. So, and that there may be some aspects of that when it comes to the customer agreements. As far as the wheeling agreement goes, though, this is definitely, this is the agreement that we hope serves our purposes for the foreseeable future. And that doesn't mean that, with every contract, no matter how many times, Joel and I have redlined it and sent it back and forth to each other, there may be something we didn't think about, a year or two down the road, and we're bringing an amendment back to the board. That could happen,
So
but.
really need to talk about the customer.
Right, for the most part, we're
So
hoping
maybe
that
that's
this is the agreement that we will work for a long period of time. But yeah, when we'll bring the customer agreements back
Kind of curious.
next month, and we'll.
I have a couple of comments. It's interesting you said about what if something didn't work. I'm bringing an article, and I'll share this with the board at, under director's comments, is why focusing on failure is the key to success, which makes a lot of sense. What could go wrong, but I'm sure that you're, in the process of your.
Yeah. So, and that's part of contract drafting, is we try to think about what could go wrong and what are the implications of the things that we're doing here, and where does that lead to? And so you try to foresee as much as you can when you enter into these contracts, but it's not uncommon, as you've all seen many times, for a contract to come back because we didn't anticipate something, or it didn't work the way we wanted it to. So there may be changes or cleanup items going forward, but is the intent here is that this is the framework that lasts for a long time.
And potential customers, do we have a number of any kind, or?
Yeah, and we actually just reached out and are conducting an additional survey. So we did a survey about a year ago. We're collecting additional information because we are really focusing our effort on the potential customers that are upstream of UPUD service territory at this point. So because there's higher cost and complication the further down the line we go. So for this year, I anticipate just customers upstream of the UPUD service territory.
A couple or.
So yeah, 2, maybe 3. One of them may or may not be in the room here today. I don't want to speak for anybody, but it'll probably be a small number of customers for this year, but
But the potential is
point, I
there.
think
The potential is there.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Director Thomas's point, I think that the first drop of water that we sell through the slurry line should be celebrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole project is a great idea. We provide water to those who want it, and it could lead to who knows what more.
Yeah, I would hope for expanded deliveries in the future, and we've had some of those discussions with UPUD already. But I think that would be sort of the next phase.
Yeah. You have any more questions?
I'm ready to vote.
All right, is there any other public comment?
I'd like to say something. My name's Tony Kipper, and I know quite a few couple people in the room. I've been in, I moved to the county about 20 years ago. I've been involved in ag one way or the other, whether it's, growing vegetables, growing animals, dairy, one way or another. And I have 4 children I'm raising in this county and in ag. And I just want to say, I appreciate all the hard work you guys have done on this slurry line, reserving water rights for future generations. For Calaveras County is something that's passionate to me as a father of 4. And I just want to say thank you guys ahead of time, if you guys decide to vote that way. But for sure, it means a lot to me, and all the work you guys have done up till now, that means a lot to me as well. And I just wanted to say thank you guys a lot.
Thank you for coming. Yes.
Welcome.
All right, any other public comment online? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nobody. All right, we got our agreement. Woo. Very good, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, Joel.
Hey, thanks
Thanks,
so
Joel.
much. Appreciate it.
Donna, thank you for-
Have a good one.
It's small monuments, it's like, that's a lot of water for our county. It's not gonna end up downstream.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
I'm just really scared it's a long state. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as the word gets out, perhaps, and you'll bring back something, whether it's an agreement or you're still working on it.
Right, we'll bring it back.
Right?
Yeah.
In the May.
And
Perfect. So the second meeting in May will be a good one. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to reports. General manager report.
so gonna keep it brief today, I think. We're on track for a pretty fast meeting, and I don't want to be the one to
Oh, and Jeff's not here.
doing that. So
Sorry, Jeff.
just a few highlights. I'll start with the bad news. And the bad news is the CPPA power rate. So the CPPA member agencies were notified in January that the power rate would likely increase in the next fiscal year from 9 cents a kilowatt hour to 11. And what we learned last week was that was not correct, and that it's going to increase to 15 cents. So we're looking at a 60% increase in our electricity rate in the next fiscal year. And that is we're by far the largest power consumer in CPPA, and it's just it's an enormous impact for all the CPPA agencies, fortunately, as it'll have a big impact on our budget.
Question, one of the things that we always do is compare this CPPA to PG&E.
Yeah,
PG&E.
great question.
Yeah.
And I asked Dennis Dickman to take a look at that, kind of give us an idea going back a few years. And he sent me the last 5 years where CPPA rates have actually held pretty stable and actually even gone down in a couple of years, where we were in between kind of 8.5 and 10 cents over the last 5 years, where during that time, PG&E's rates have pretty consistently gone up. And so even at 15 cents, we're less than half right now. At 15 cents, we'll be at half of what their commercial rate is. So we're still at 50% of what the commercial rate is for PG&E customers. But it's still a huge increase for this year. So.
Isn't that PG&E is trying to charge us for demand, whether we use it or not, and that's part of the increase?
So there's been a lot of back and forth on that, and the rate filing is the proceeding at FERC is still in the works, but there's an agreement on a second interim settlement agreement that was delayed for some reason. The administrative law judge rejected it, even though none of the parties opposed it, which is unusual. But so that causes some delay and there'll be some costs associated with that, but we're hoping eventually that gets approved. And it does away with the contract demand basis or bill
Wasn't
instructor.
PG&E asking for that? in the
Yeah,
first
so
place?
they were asking
We
for,
all had to say what our demand rate would be for a year.
for each
Yeah.
connection, you would have to establish your contract demand, which is basically your max potential usage
Yeah.
for that account. And then you'd be billed for that amount of power. And they have gone away from that, but it's still really what's driving this is the cost of the distribution charge. So they are seeing a lot of cost increases. Obviously, we've all heard about, the hardening of their infrastructure, the wildfire liability,
Right.
and they have to recover those costs. And that's
And
what they're
I
doing.
think I read just recently that they've gone to the PUC and requested like a 20% increase over the next two or three years, staggered in 5-6%. The other question I have is, are we getting, at one point, solar wouldn't have penciled out? I mean, because we were getting electricity so cheap, and as it goes up, we continuing to look at the benefits of solar and are they beneficial or getting closer to be beneficial with the rates that we're dealing with?
Yeah, so basically two things that have come out of this news from staff perspective. One is just making sure we're as efficient as possible everywhere we are, right? So, we've joked about no more air conditioning and heaters, and I don't think we can do that to our staff, but we definitely have given the message to staff to, where there's low hanging fruit in terms of power consumption and energy efficiency, let's prioritize it more than we have in the past. Because because of the cost increase. And then the other part of it is, let's reevaluate some of those potential projects. And they haven't penciled in the past because of the disparity that's beneficial to us between the CPPA rate and the PG&E rate. But in the last couple of years, when we've looked at it, it was more than 50% of the difference between those two rates. Now we're getting closer. So we're gonna reevaluate.
And I just heard from my solar guy, at solar at the house, and he has commented that a lot of these benefits that you have gained as a solar customer are going away in about 6 months. So that we have a window here, and everyone who has it is grandfathered into these old rules.
Right.
But the huge benefits for solar use are going away because of.
So that's the NIM 3.0 proceeding that has been delayed at the PUC. Fortunately, there's been a lot of opposition to that. But it may only be delayed and not defeated. And so if that goes into effect, right, any solar installed on rooftops or anywhere else in California, the return on that bill credit will go down significantly. The return on that investment will be much less than it is right now, but you can still grandfather in a NIM 2.0 contract at this point. So if you're considering solar, I would encourage you to do it now.
Yeah.
All right. Board reports.
Yes.
Yeah, good news.
I do have good news. The good news is the new tank that we have installed in Sheep Ranch is almost 100% done. The electricians are still working on some of the telemetry or some of in their piece of it. But the tank is installed, the hydrant's installed, the purple hydrant. And the biggest debate we had recently was whether or not we have Deep Purple as the theme music for the ribbon cutting for the Barney theme song.
Smoke on the water.
But it's a huge effort. Damon really spearheaded it to, get creative and find an old tank that we could repurpose and relocate. We did a lot of the work in-house. And we contracted out what we had to contract out. We got a contribution from the county to help make that project possible. So it really was a great collaborative effort, but definitely spearheaded by our operations staff. So I think it's just a fantastic project, and it provides some additional fire support or fire suppression support for Sheep Ranch. So we will be having a ribbon cutting ceremony out there next Friday. I believe, right?
Yeah, 2 more.
No, two.
The 13th.
2 more weeks.
Friday the 13th.
Oh,
Got that taped up.
I didn't put that together. I did see it. 10 a.m.
Yes.
We were gonna blast a bunch of water out of the hydrant, but considering the drought conditions that we're in right now, I thought maybe we should just pump it into a truck instead or something. So we'll figure it out. But that project's close to completion.
Let's get a big pair of scissors, like.
We have them.
Okay, all right.
It's actually, sorry to another second on a tangent there, but we bought those giant scissors 2 years ago, I think, or a long time ago, in anticipation of ribbon cutting ceremonies for, I think it was initially Reach One.
Ah.
And then the pandemic hit and we can't do ribbon cutting ceremonies and there've been, other things. So we're finally going to put those giant scissors to use.
I read it out.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
For
Yeah,
MSP.
rent it out to.
Get some of your money back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then there will be on the public outreach side, we're working on a town hall for the West Point area is the next up. And that is later this month. Thank goodness Jessica's here. So that'll be in the evening on the 17th and very much looking
Can't go
forward.
because of that. That's okay.
We can reschedule it, but
No.
you certainly are the guest of honor, so
No,
it would be hard to do without you.
Always schedule work it again.
So yeah, we're looking forward to being able to do town hall meetings again too. That's all I have for now.
I can
Very
fill in,
good.
I can fill in for you.
No, I'm gonna go. So was it just reminding of that, so I will be at the ribbon cutting because I can't get back in time.
Actually, sorry, one other thing I will mention, and
No, no,
I
you're
mentioned
fine,
it
Jack.
yesterday
3
at
minutes.
engineering committee, so I need to mention it here today too, and I've talked to Director Underhill about it. Is it just in case you hear from customers, it's really just the Ebbets Pass area that's impacted right now, but that we're at the last stage of truing up the consumptive use on the new meters in the Ebbets Pass service area, and it's been a long process, but the bills that went out last week reflect true consumption from the time the meter was installed. The new meter was installed to the present billing cycle, but in some cases that's 6 months. So customers are seeing higher consumptive totals than they are accustomed to because it extends back several billing cycles potentially. So we've tried to put some outreach out on that front and we are seeing some call volume. It's mostly, my understanding is questions, not necessarily, people trying to understand why they're seeing what they're seeing, but I
It's
just want to
not
make
that
sure.
they're refusing to pay their water.
Right,
Just,
right.
tell
Just wanted to
me.
make sure the board was aware of it in case you hear from customers as to what's going on up there. So,
I'm curious as the number of not.
yeah, so I asked Jessica about that yesterday. So you asked that question, and I think we're around 150 calls that we've received on that particular issue. And so, that's doesn't sound like a big number, and 6,600 customers in the Ebbets Pass service area, I think.
On the
Right.
meter, on the water use or?
Just on this billing cycle in
bill.
particular in the
On
last
the
few
bill
days.
itself.
So since the emails went out on Friday that the new bill was released, a higher than normal call volume of customers wondering why their bill is showing what it is showing. And there's two things. The billing is true consumption back to the day the meter was swapped out. And the other thing that's going on here though, and this is something that's going to affect all of our service areas and something we'll have to deal with going forward, is that the meters are accurate and they have not always been accurate, and they may not have been accurate for quite some time. And so the other issue here is not just that we're in the Ebbets Pass case, we're billing for more than one billing cycle just on the consumptive use. But customers may see an increase in their bill, in the consumptive portion of their bill, because the previous meter was underreporting because they were old meters, and new meters tend to be much more accurate. So that's a discussion we've had with a lot of customers as well, and we'll continue to have, I'm sure, as people get used to the new meter technology.
And so we're going to get a second round of questions when you
How much,
deal with truism.
how much in gallons, I guess, are these new meters calculating compared to the old ones? What is this?
Great question. So I don't know if we have aggregated totals yet, but that's something we will have. And that's one of the advantages of this project is, one of the things we continue to hear from the state is the disparity between our treatment plant production and our consumptive use that is shown through our bills. And that they chalk that up to transmission losses. So we must have leaky pipes, right? If there's a big disparity there, when in fact, what we've been telling them for quite some time now is we also have really old meters that are underreporting consumption. So but that's hard to quantify. But now going forward, we'll have accurate readings, and that gap between treatment plant production and end user consumption should close. But we don't know. I don't think we have the answer to that question yet, but that's one of the things we're really, really eager to see how that plays out as this project has been implemented.
Because I was asking Michael, do you think it might work the other way, that we were overcharging? And he says, I don't think so.
It's highly unlikely that an old meter would overcharge over time. And after we talked, I talked to Damon about that again, and yeah, it would be very unusual. They tend to slow down, not speed up.
Are these meters built in the USA?
The
Yeah.
Mueller meters?
So the chances of them being calibrated to something other than reading gallons per minute or whatever it is
They read it in
compared to a
cubic feet,
meter. Okay, so there's no
right? No, we're
little
not.
mistake like that,
We're
right?
not on the
Meter
metric system.
versus Whatever it is.
And mechanically, the meter is the same. It's it's the head and the battery that allow the information. It's how it's grabbing the information out of the meter itself. But it still tallies the water that flows through it, the same as an older meter. With the exception of our high pressure meters, those are what are called mag meters. So we have just an electromagnet around the pipe that's inside the meter. And so that's how it extrapolates the flow. But for all of, I would say the vast majority of the meters out there, they're essentially the same technology. They're just a brand new meter that can then convey that use data back to the office.
So they track in cubic feet, but we will accept payment in euros, yen,
Rubles.
rubles, lira, pounds.
Okay, and I just want to make one statement, and that's the fact that I'm not, downplaying the number of calls that we've gotten, but if you put it into perspective, 150 calls out of 6,600 water customers that are up in Nevins passes, But people care. People
Yeah.
care about every penny that they're spending these days. And so
Oh,
that-
no, and they're perfectly legitimate questions. They're trying to understand what's going on with their bill. I think customer service has done a great job, though, of
Oh,
trying to
absolutely.
put out a lot of information. So the project update gets, updated on the website frequently. There's a lot of other outreach efforts where I think people have the ability to get their questions answered without having to call the district.
On that, the demonstration you did we talk about, could we, we have a 100-gallon tank. We run the water through the meter and measure it on the other end to make sure 100 gallons come out or whatever. And that's what the meter read. Is that possible? Just for those people that are complaining about, well, it can't be reading, could you do something
Correct.
like that?
I've actually put together individual videos, and I'll be putting it on the agenda for next board meeting, of how read each meter. So I created just quick little 1-minute videos for each meter because they all read a little different so that the customers can understand how to read their meter, what they're reading, all of those things. And then the other video that I'd like to do is a 5-gallon bucket test. So that same kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
they could do it themselves at home to test their meter. So yeah.
Perfect. So that's something they could do at home.
Absolutely. And then as far as customer service staff, we've worked with customer service staff to have, the different frequently asked questions with a solid, just concise answer for them to relay to the customer so that we're sending a clear message consistently. And a lot of the big questions that the customers are asking from Ebbets Pass is, because maybe a meter was installed 6 months ago, it's not necessarily that their bill's higher, but that the consumption number is so high. it doesn't look right because it's over 6 months, not over 2 months. Of course, yes, there are some bills that are a little bit higher than what they're used to, but maybe they had a leak during that time or their meter's actually tracking accurately. So customer service staff are talking through, all of those scenarios.
And I like the fact that you are having a consistent message because,
Yes.
one customer will call up and say, oh, well, they told me this, and the other one will say,
Right.
oh, they told me that, so that
Right.
as long as,
Exactly. And then if customers, they've called questioning how to read their meters. So now that we have these videos, customer service staff can look up their account. We know exactly what type of meter they have just based on the meter ID. So we can send them a video specific to their meter so that they can see how to read their meter.
And we have just a ton more data that we can answer questions with too. So a customer calls with a question about their meter their water consumption. We can pull up the meter. We can read it in real time from the office. We can provide them with a lot more data than we used to have.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank
Jessica.
the customer.
Don't
Reps.
go away.
Okay, Russ's turn.
My turn. In the not too distant past, there was I call it an algorithm or whatever, but if a person's meter didn't get read in 2 cycles, it resulted in a higher consumption over the 2 periods, and it put them in the tiered, we had tiered billing. You have higher consumption, you had to pay more per acre foot or per gallon. Is any of that going on?
Yeah, so we adjust the tiers.
So everything was adjusted, exactly. So we went all the way back to, it was a six or 8 month time frame when we adjusted those tiers so that because their bills had that higher consumption number, the tiers were adjusted so that they weren't charged a higher tier. So we made sure to accommodate for all of that.
So if they were in tier 1 every month for that 6 month period of time, the tier would be adjusted if we're billing for all 6 months so that they would only be billed the tier 1 cost for their consumptive use.
Are you guys writing a book of how this transition happened? So you could sell it to others who might go through it?
It's a great question. And Kelly Richards, who's our customer service supervisor, she went through this with, I believe, Pleasanton. And
Right.
so she's been a huge help to kind of see we're having these issues. And I talked to her, I'm like, did you experience this? She's like, oh yeah, it's the same. We're experiencing the same issues. And so she's been vital in this process because she's lived through it already. So we can kind of look ahead on all of these unknowns that maybe we're thinking about, but she's actually experienced it.
Yeah, and a lot of it is not necessarily unique to us. It's just.
Right.
This
It's
is the
part of the process.
And so if you guys would have had a list from somebody that says, don't do this, or don't do that.
Right. And the questions of, do our meters actually read correctly? Kelly can vouch for that they actually went out and did 5 gallons bucket tests for
Good.
customers,
I think
things
that
like
would
that.
be
So,
Yeah.
so it's not just here, it's a common.
Yeah.
It's a common thing.
Well, following up on the question that I just had, and the answer you gave was a good one, but is there anything, a note in the bill that would put their mind at ease that, yes, this adjustment has been made?
Yep. So in the Ebbets Pass bills, in the comment section, we made sure to say that we are truing up consumption for your AMI meter and that we have adjusted the tiers to accommodate for this. And if there's further questions, we only have so many words we can use, unfortunately, on the bill. If you have further questions, you can ask. And that's where our customer service staff are ready. They have the information to explain that to them.
And if we're encouraging, them to use this 5 gallon, to do the test, what are we telling them to do with that 5 gallons of water that they now have in a bucket? Are we accommodating?
That's a great question. Make a video. We can show like watering plants.
Yes.
Making
sure
sure
Tell them that no water was wasted in doing these videos.
Exactly. That's great.
Rebecca, the other comment I would have is that, I still call here and I don't get a live voice. I just can't stand it. But you should try and make sure that somebody is specifically there answering the phone. So when the person calls to get a live person, they might not get an answer to their question, but they can get a live person saying, I understand your frustration.
Well,
Let me take your name and number and we will get back to you in whatever time frame. But when you're mad or something and you're trying to call and you can't get through and it's how many damn buttons you gotta push.
you know,
Well,
just FYI.
we have streamlined the phone tree a lot, and I think there are a lot of improvements there. But I don't think, we don't have 100%.
No, and
Yeah, but how come you can't have one person dedicated to answering the phone and transferring
We're
it?
actually.
Just during this process.
We're actually, we've had a little bit of a gap, but we had someone from Motherload Job Training working with us that was doing that. And on Monday, we have a new person starting who's going to be
Okay,
doing that.
they're
So
just answering the phone. That's all
that's
they.
going to be her priority. Absolutely.
Thank you, because that'll alleviate customers.
yeah,
You don't want to add to that frustration.
Yes.
right. And that's exactly how I feel. And every time
I
anyone
know.
gets on the phone, I tell them exactly how I feel because they are upset and nothing makes them more upset than to hear, well, so-and-so's not available. Well, we'll try to help you.
Russ, go ahead.
I'm done.
What?
I'm using my block.
We're moving on.
Oh.
You know what, Rebecca, we all need some of these blocks for the next meeting. To help us
How
calm
come
down.
Russ got?
I know his hands are busy.
Awesome.
Uh,
Did you guys see what Russ got?
He's building, he's over here
Show 'em what he
building
got.
buildings.
Rebecca got him a pallet of real miniature blocks on a real pallet. Okay, so thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Moving on, board reports. Let's start with Bertha.
Okay, first of all, please bring me up to date on what we have put in motion now to address the drought conditions that we're going to be facing. What have we done?
So we're still in drought stage 1 right now, as far as CCWD is concerned, but the drought, the executive order that came out recently will likely, once they inform us as to what all the mandates are, which will probably be mid to late May, will likely push us into stage 2. So drought stage 1 is a 15% voluntary reduction, and stage 2 is a 20% reduction that has some more mandatory provisions in it. So we'll be transitioning to that probably in late May. We are still, despite a little bit of weather this month, unfortunately, we're still in very severe drought.
Because I want to make sure that we just don't say, boom, as of today, we're under 20%. This is what you have to do. Preparation, getting our customers.
Yeah,
It's hard
so
to
we
do that
did-
when we've had all this rain and cold weather.
And we did a
know?
press release
they
recently
gotta-
on
They
on
have
the
to
executive
hear.
order. We did a press release recently, kind of forecasting that this was coming. But we'll be. doing
Yep,
some-
on behalf of Calaveras Conserves, we pushed out a press release. I've met with Calaveras Conserves about it. And internally, we've had discussions about how we're gonna prep for this stage 2. We're putting up conservation signs throughout the county. And that's a collaboration with Calaveras Conserves as well. We're trying to get
Right.
those little things ahead of when we likely move into that stage 2. I'm also ordering lots of supplies right now to give away to the public. Just basically just getting all that preparation, but the big thing was getting that press release out, and next step is getting those signs out ahead of that stage 2, just to get people
Prepped.
understanding this is
Yeah.
gonna likely happen.
And the reason I'm asking that is because there was a great article in the Valley Springs News on
Oh, great.
water storage concerns increase, and this was Calaveras concerns.
It
Concerns.
wasn't that great because it compared, it gives you percentage of capacity as opposed to percentage of average.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, it's kind of overblows, I think it overblows things. And
Oh.
they, in that same paper, they have every single week or twice a week. They have the exact same information in a little graph.
Well, then
As percentage of capacity, it's never capacity. Nothing's ever capacity. That's just a
Well,
tough
we'll
number to
get-
look at.
we'll get Nick shaped up.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Good luck.
Then Jessica,
Don't go anywhere.
reading in the Aqua newsletter, it says they had Save Our Water kits. Is that what you were, what
Yep,
you
so,
ordered?
so another thing that I've been working with is with Save Our Water. So they have a lot of great like templates and things to use, and they have kits. And so that's one thing I'm reaching out to get some of those. I'm working with different avenues for that.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, did we celebrate Water Day?
When
We celebrate
Every
every day
day.
that we have water.
Right.
Every day's water day. I don't,
April the 22nd is
Oh,
water,
that was
Earth
early.
Day.
or not,
Earth Day.
what, well, okay,
That's Friday.
yeah.
No, I don't
Okay.
think CCWD pushed anything out on that. No, yeah, I don't think we did.
How did you celebrate?
I wore my t-shirt. Oh, I was here in the wonderful garden that Judy Dean planted, all these trees and everything. I was here.
Good.
So I have a picture that I'll be forwarding
Well,
to you.
very good. Scott,
Oh,
Oh, she's not.
there's my,
she lived in the
Photographer.
3 minutes as well. The
Here's my-
public is, we have to too.
Jenny says your 3 minutes is up.
She's running for office.
Who is?
She's campaigning.
Oh,
Needs some air, needs airtime, obviously.
all right. Next, Scott.
Uh,
Anything
two-
to report,
Two,
comment?
two quick things. Next week is the Aqua Conference. I'll be at the JPIA meeting, on Monday. It's always great to go to that meeting. And I was telling Patricia that earlier, that there's some pick up some great ideas. 2 years ago, I brought back that we needed to do better cybersecurity, and we are, and that's fantastic. And Dave, I want to ask you, last year I brought back 3 suggestions from their safety group. One of them is cones on vehicles. Number 2 is reflective tape on the back of our vehicles. And number 3 was extension cords. Shouldn't be laying on the ground. They should be in reels overhead. And those prevent, all 3 prevent workers' comp injuries and claims.
All are important.
Good job,
All
Scott.
have been implemented. Yeah, all trucks have cones. We keep a roll of reflective tape. All of the new vehicles have.
oh, let me.
And-
shake
You are
my
And
hand.
keeping, it's, extension cords are tough, because as you know, sometimes a temporary fix becomes permanent, but where we can, out in the field, absolutely. Extension cords.
The next meeting, I'll be bringing back some new suggestions from the safety
yeah.
meeting coming up on Monday.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. The other thing that was announced just recently is Mountain County's program, the Calor Fire Program. It's going to be in June, starting, we have a meeting that day, Wednesday, June 22nd is our fourth Wednesday of the month. Later on that evening, there'll be a reception in El Dorado Hills with the start of the Caldor fire presentation, and then the tour will be all day the next day. I think we all got an email. I think Rebecca forwarded out an email to all of us. Rick, encourage you to sign up quickly, because that bus is going to fill up
Soon as I
by
retire,
tomorrow.
I'm there.
So that's on the Tuesday, and then that's on Thursday, the all-day tour, and then on Friday morning will be the kind of the third follow-up final presentations in El Dorado Hills. Encourage staff and my fellow board members to try and get there if they can. That's all.
And there's some new
Thank
board
you,
members,
Scott.
right?
Somewhat.
Some new Mountain County's board members.
Oh, yes, and we got two new board members. We filled up our board. They had vacancies for about a year now.
What agency?
The 2 board members, both of their names are Lori, and one of them is in El Dorado County. I doggone it, I don't have it in front of me. El
So there's
Dorado County.
I think it's an El Dorado County supervisor and an El
Supervisor.
Dorado irrigation district.
Yeah,
director.
EID
Both of them.
board. Yeah, both of them. We haven't had anybody from El Dorado County for a few years, representation from that county. So now we got a 9-member board again, but we do, just FYI, we do have two board members, 2 current longtime board members that will be leaving at the end of their term at the end of this year. You know, we'll be doing the same thing again, recruiting for a couple new positions. One of those will be leaving from Yuba County, another one from Nevada County. That's what's going on in Mountain County. So
Very cool. Thank you. You're on it. Russ.
Okay, I noticed when I left out of here yesterday after the engineering committee meeting that there's a big sign at the end of the road that's advertising an 80-acre parcel for sale there. You know that?
Haven't noted. I know there's a large parcel that's been for sale there for quite some time.
Well, it's a new sign.
I haven't seen the
And
sign there yet.
I suspect that 80-acre parcel may have a common boundary with the 15-acre parcel that we have over there, that surplus parcel, so. It has been a frustration for me for many, many years that road doesn't go through.
Yeah, me as well.
So you as well. I can't make the calls, but I think that it's prudent for, I can give you the telephone number that's on that sign up there, just to kind of plant a seed of suggestion that there are folks in this existing development that would maybe even participate in a load of gravel or something for a new road to go through there. I don't know how that would work out, but it would certainly pay dividends over time. I think we would all agree. Concrete trucks coming from that facility have to go down through town and go to Angels Camp, which is stupid. But anyway, just can we do a little outreach on
Believe me, I drive by it twice a day and every time I think about the 5 minutes it would shave off my commute in both directions. I think there is an easement that exists there, if I remember correctly. There is an old dirt road up there, and I think that the easement is still there. I think one of the big problems though is that if we were to do an encroachment onto 49, especially if we're talking about trucks, and there's a passing lane right there, so.
well, no,
I think the road is an extension of Angels Road.
Angels Road right through our property, so
Yeah.
there might be an easier path there.
Still,
But yeah, but it's worth, I mean, it's a good opportunity. You're right. If that lot is for sale, we should look into whether there's a way to do it or not.
well, I just think that it would be a little bit of another tool that the salesperson could use in pitching the property to a potential buyer, that, boy, there's all kinds of interest around here for having that road go through, and man, oh man, you'd have support for.
how would it help us? How would it help us as a district here? I mean, besides shaving 5 minutes off
For the general
Michael's.
manager? Well, that's
Yeah,
worthwhile.
commute.
Yeah, that alone, I think.
Just think all that
That alone.
thinking he does in the car by himself.
You know,
I mean, I think it is not just me, everybody who's coming to and from the pass, it cuts the commute down a little bit. It's not a
Yeah.
huge difference. So it's not something we would put a lot of money behind, I don't think, but if there's a way to do it, I would love to see it happen.
But how about, it's not, in the not too distant future, we'll have people being dispatched out of this building here, hopefully. And whenever they're going to Angels Camp or any place up the Highway 4 corridor, it would be a tremendous time savings, for cumulative time savings and access to deliveries and all that kind of stuff. It's just common sense. I mean,
With all the neighbors.
everybody should have a circulation plan.
All right, Russ, your 3 minutes is all.
Okay, I'm convinced.
Are you convinced? And you could walk to.
I
here.
could bicycle to work if that was
No
there.
kidding. I'm shocked that you would ask me, what's the purpose of that?
It would help me more than
You know,
anyone.
I've liked you up until this point.
Billy me.
I think I'm done.
All right, I don't really have anything to report, but as far as future agenda items, Michael, Scott had made that comment about putting the legal position policy
Yeah, I
in an
think,
agenda item at some point in the next couple months or
yeah,
something.
we'll bring it to legal affairs and then we'll
Yeah.
bring it to the board.
And then I'm wondering if it's necessary or are you gonna work with customers if they are doing this extended billing and they get a huge bill? Are you going to offer some kind of a, okay, pay it in 2 payments kind of a thing? Pay your current, but the one we double billed you on or anything like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's not a huge, in most cases, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica, but it's not a huge cost hit. It's because we're only talking about the consumptive portion of the rate, which is, a very small portion of the rate. So and I think in most cases, we're not talking about a huge dollar amount. It's just it's abnormal, and that's what's creating the
Well,
volume of
If it
questions.
comes up to where somebody says, I can't pay this, perhaps you could agendize it, but I'm just sharing, anything we could do to help lessen the customer's frustration, if that means they pay 2 times no finance fee, then
Mhm.
whatever,
Right.
you know.
Currently, we're not, we don't have late fees. And that is so that they can get through both the getting their new account set up in Tyler, as well as because of what's going on with AMI right now. So there are no late fees. Also, we're not doing shut-offs. So if they have trouble paying the full amount right now, they could pay a little bit this month, a little bit next month. We do
Perfect.
say that, you know, make sure you keep up.
And you offer that to them and let them know. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I have to say, other than thank you and great job on workman's comp, everybody, and put that together. A luncheon or whatever you guys want, but I'd like the board members to be there just so I can try and put some names and to faces, and if you do something, maybe I would have you make them wear a name tag, just because I don't remember, I don't see everybody enough. I know it's a dorky thing, but anyhow, I'll work on that for them because they deserve it. All right, so the next board meetings, Wednesday, May 11th at 1 o'clock and Wednesday, May 25th at 1 o'clock. Excuse me, Cindy, I did forget to hand out this one flyer that I was going to give, and so I'll give it to Rebecca.
Okay,
and She'll
then she can
send it
put 'em up,
in
yeah.
your mail, okay? Please read it and we'll talk about it at a
Awesome.
later date.
Okay, do you want to make that an agenda item?
Um,
Work with Michael and Rebecca on that. You know, even if it's just a little bit of discussion, if you feel it's warranted. If you just
Okay.
want us all to read it, it's just information only, you know, whatever.
We'll take a look.
Okay, all right, so now we're gonna go into closed session. We have 9A conference with real property negotiators. Property is APNs. Do I need to read all of
No,
that?
you don't.
All
You
right,
just read
and
it.
9B conference
Bye
with
now.
legal counsel,
Damon?
and we're going in to take a minute recess. And we are adjourning at what time, Rebecca? All right, and we'll just go take a little break here. Yeah, I don't have to read all of it. I thought Jeff used to do that.